want to push to make, right? Like, what is it that kind of grabs you about a script?
Well, going into it, I think increasingly, you really need to have you said it right there, a unique voice, right? You can still have, whether it's a romantic comedy or a courtroom drama or political thriller or an elevated horror, you can cover territory in a way that has been tread on before. That's okay. But you have to bring something to say, something different for me anyway. Like I want there to be something about that film, or in the case of television, as I'm increasingly going to do that as well. Just something, it has something more unique to say. And the quality of the writing obviously has to be very strong. So in the first 10 pages, I'd say I give it the first 10 to 30 pages, 10 to 25 pages, give it a little bit of room to breathe, But so it's going in, knowing what the subject matter is, knowing what the lens is into that screenplay. And then from there, of course, it's the quality of the writing and the unique spin on the subject or on the
I agree with that too, and it's something you and I have spoken about before, Laura. And I think even to the group here, right? It's that threading of the needle where the audience either A, doesn't mind, or B, is actually expecting, right, a lot of those kinds of beats and structures, and they want that in some ways, and sometimes they want something different. But again, it's telling that story through A, like you said, a unique lens, and B, just in an interesting way. And I think audiences now in the film and filmmaking itself has come so far in 100 years plus that people want to see, sort of familiar stories told in new and different ways. I think we're at that point now too, and I agree with you. And that's a great prism through which to read those scripts, right? Because you do need that level of, solid structure and pacing and, familiar beats and all that, because that's, and you and I know this from our studio days, that's something that feels viable maybe in the marketplace, or something that people can grab onto, or something you can sell, right? For lack of a better term. But I cannot stress you enough what Laura just said, guys. It's really finding a new way, injecting your own voice in it, and finding a new way to tell those stories.
I would say economy of storytelling too. And don't get me wrong, I'll always highlight the scripts that really chart new ground. I'm not afraid of those and love them as a personal preference. But what I'm saying is also don't fear that you have to completely go outside the box to succeed with your screenplay. And if it's a personal story, really bring that to the page. Bring what you've experienced, what you know. Don't write for what you think others want you to write.
I actually think that's really well put. I don't know if I've heard it quite put that way before. You're right. And we talk a little bit about that as well, Laura, and we'll talk about it in a moment too, in terms of, like, a lot of times people will kind of say, if a script wasn't for somebody, they go, oh, why did they pass? And I want to know why they pass. And I kind of say, well, don't change your script to please somebody that's kind of already, that's already passed on it. Like, stick true to your voice. Eventually, if somebody likes your script, you will probably get notes and develop it and collaborate. But people always kind of wonder, oh, why could I have done something different for that person to read my script? No, right? It just wasn't for them. And I would say don't change it to try to please other people who you may not even know have read it, or who probably aren't going to read it again. So I also think that's an apt way to put it, is, write from yourself, write what fulfills you and pleases you. And ideally somebody connects with that. That's all really it is. It's the right person reading the right script and going, light bulb going off and going, bam, I want to move forward with this. And that being said, that leads perfectly to my next question. So the things you've actually made, right? The movies you've actually produced, because I know in relation to what you've actually made, you've read many, many more, right? But you read it, you move forward, you package it, you finance it. Again, what were some of those criteria in a script that really made you want to get that made and eventually get it made, right? Like, what was it that attracted you to it, or was it prepackaged or in some way, or speak a little bit to that perhaps?
Yeah. God, they've come in all shapes and sizes, So maybe I'll highlight a few in the chronology of when they came out, right? So Margin Call, for instance, J.C. Chandler had never written or directed a feature before. He wasn't even represented at the time. But
Wow.
for that script, it was a combination of, I personally love, again, goes back to my love of journalism, stories that highlight a time and a historical or political situation that deserves telling from a very specific viewpoint. And his was about the 2008 financial collapse.
Right.
And it was done, again, economy of storytelling, tautly wound. It was written like a tautly wound thriller,
Right.
And by the way, it was so economical that when I was putting together financing and putting the project together, it was a lot of comments about, oh, have you ever thought about just doing this for television? Because it was only 88 pages long, So there's a lot of resistance to that. But in his case, as a writer-director, so much of what he was going to be bringing to the film lived in his head, right? So you have to hear in that case, hear from the filmmaker, hear the vision, get the fully rounded picture to know exactly what he's going to bring to the table. So, what we didn't know is that when we released the film, it would be taking place during Occupy Wall Street. So we hit a true zeitgeist moment. So I didn't fear that other people thought that there was a malaise about talking about, the financial crisis. At the time, there was a real resistance to it.
Right.
I was drawn to the story and thought, this film deserves to be made. And then, there are films like, Linda Lovelace. I was completely drawn to the idea of the duality of what you knew or what you thought you knew about her story versus what was really going on behind the scenes. Or in the case of The Tale, Jennifer Fox's, cinememoir. Here I had a filmmaker who was going to tell her own story.
Right.
And kind of unpack the trauma, investigate her own story, her own trauma on film. And it was incredibly compelling on the page. And it was additionally compelling, to think about how she was going to take us through this, through both the lens of her own camera, but also through the vessel that would be Laura Dern playing her, right?
Right. That meta layer.
And in the case of that script, it wasn't just about her story as a survivor. It was also looking at recall and memory and how we're unreliable narrators in our own lives, right? And I found that fascinating. So it worked on multiple levels.
Right.
So when I had resistance to people as we were developing the script and packaging the cast, and I was putting together the financing, it was, a lot of trying to compare it to stories that might not have done so well commercially, right? Because they're stories about trauma, looking at it in a smaller lens. But what I had to try to convince people of, and ultimately the film was executed so well and did on screen as well, was that here you had an opportunity to really look at that idea of your memory and recall and what in your life, no matter what it is. It doesn't have to be a form of trauma. It could be anything that you might have experienced. You compartmentalize in such a way that you remember it differently. And so what does that look like?
Watch the full Stage 32 webcast to get the insider intel you need to stay ahead as a writer, producer, or director in 2026. And for those ready to truly level up, join the Stage 32 Writers Room. This is your direct line to A-list executives and a global community of elite filmmakers. Don't just watch the industry change, lead it. Tap the links below to get started.